Civilization or Barbarism, an Authentic Anthropology by Dr. Cheikh Anta Diop. The Chinese Revolution in the 9th century AD. In China, the Tang Dynasty, after the revolt by An Lushan, the process of primitive accumulation assumed clearly capitalistic forms. The revolt had, as a direct consequence of a demographic drop and a social crisis, during which the imperial regime almost collapsed. During the Tang period, the state no longer enjoyed anything other than the eminent domain of land. In fact, the state had become merely the distributor of it. Each peasant automatically received a lifetime concession of 3 to 6 hectares on the land of his village and the ownership of 1.5 hectares that he could pass on to his descendants. These two types of concessions that the peasant received from the state remained inalienable. In return, he paid a land tax, served in the militia, and did statute labor. At his death, the land returned to the village community for redistribution. But high office holders had the possibility of acquiring large hereditary estates, which they leased to country farmers or hired agricultural workers to cultivate. However, following An Lushan's revolt, the small peasant lifetime concession suddenly disappeared. Indeed, in order to replenish the imperial coffers depleted during the revolt, heavy taxation was imposed on the people, who went into debt, sold their lifetime concessions, even though this was forbidden, and turned into a true agricultural proletariat. Land owning families no longer represented more than 5% of the population. The peasantry's limited ownership of land had practically disappeared. There were now only agricultural workers ready to sell their labor. The split between labor and working conditions had occurred, it seems, on a sufficiently large scale and to a sufficiently deep degree that a revolution of the capitalist bourgeoisie type might break out. Taxation triggered riots. The revolutionary movement found a brain in the person of Wang Chao, a well read, energetic, and intelligent person embittered by social injustices. This special condition for the revolutions of antiquity and the Middle Ages was thus met. All the conditions for a capitalist type of revolution seemed in place. The revolt began in the overpopulated region bordering Hopei and Shantung. However, at first it took only the form of a jihad. It spread when the government made the mistake of arming the peasants so that they might organize their own defense. Wang Chao devastated Shantung and the Caitong plains of Honan. He descended on South China and sacked the ports of Fuzhou in 878 AD and of Canton in 879. He returned north and captured the imperial capital cities of Luoyang and Shanghai. The royal court then fled to Szechuan, from where it asked the Turkish horde of the Sand Desert, or Chol, to come to its rescue. The chief of the horde, Li Ko-yong succeeded in saving the Tang Dynasty by exterminating the peasant masses in revolt and recalling the emperor to the capital. When he entered the imperial capital city, it had already turned into a desert. Grass and brush grew in the deserted streets where hares and foxes had made their dens. And we'll stop there and continue back on Civilization or Barbarism. I'm Uriel. Hi,